In this section, I would talk about the best practices which help you improvise your programming techniques. Best practices: primitive data types and variables. Always initialize automatic or local variables where they are declared. This will avoid errors such as variable not initialized. One also needs to remember that automatic variables are not defaultly initialized. However, array types are defaultly initialized. One-character variable names should be avoided. One-character variable names make life tough during debugging. Let's say we have two developers, Mr. X and Mr. Y. And Mr. X has developed some code for a bank account and has used variable names as I to hold minimum balance and K to hold current balance. Having submitted his code to a tester who reported a bug saying current balance displayed is incorrect. And this bug was given to Mr. Y for debugging. Now Mr. Y needs to fix the bug and resubmit the code. Mr. Y is confused between the variables I and K because only Mr. X knows what these variables have been used for. A good meaningful name could have made developer Y's life easier. Note that the length of the variable name does not affect the performance of your code. However, there are restrictions on maximum length of the variable name. The names of constant class variables should be all uppercase, with words separated by underscores. Example, minimum underscore balance. This is a Java convention which makes it easier for other developers to understand your code. However, there is no syntactical rule connected to this. Avoid using character type variables for numeric data. Use byte type variables instead, because byte type variables use less space than a character variable, and byte type variables are also defaultly used for holding integer values. Byte types can be used for saving memory in large arrays, where memory actually matters. Best practices: control structures and flow control. An int data type should be used as the loop index variable wherever possible, as it is more efficient compared to using byte or short data types. Avoid creating objects in a loop. This results in creation of multiple objects, which could also lead to a stack overflow. Use system.arrayCopy to copy arrays. The method makes a binary copy of the array and therefore is much faster. Avoid using method calls to check for termination condition in a loop. If a method is expected to return the same value for every call, for example, the size method of the array list, then it can overburden the process, because a method not only returns the value but also processes multiple statements to compute or arrive at the return value. It is efficient to access variables in a loop than compared to accessing array elements. This is because an array always needs to compute the element's address before accessing the element value. The array uses the formula initial address of the array plus the whole of size of type of the array into the element position to compute the element position. Best practices. Operators. When multiplication or division is done in multiples of 2, it's always advisable to use left shift and right shift operators respectively. This is because the shift operators directly operate on the bits of the value and are much faster than division and multiplication operators. The equals operator is much faster than the equals method. The method equals is generally overridden for custom comparisons. When using the AND short circuit operator, it is best to keep the expression which is most likely to be false on the extreme left side of the operator. And when using the OR short circuit operator, it is best to keep the expression which is most likely to be true on the extreme left side of the operator. In both cases, the compiler need not evaluate the expression on the right side if the condition fails in the first expression. Best practices. Strings. Create strings as literals instead of creating string objects using new operator. Plus operator gives best performance for string concatenation if string resolved at compile time. As discussed earlier, strings are immutable objects. Resolving string literals at runtime would end up creating new string objects and therefore are considered slower than string buffer. Use string buffer's append method to concatenate string literals at runtime. String buffer is a mutable object. Convert string to character array to process characters, rather than using char_at method of the string class. Encapsulation. Attributes and methods whose usage must be controlled should be made private. That is, all attributes and methods which are not required to be accessible from other classes should be made private to avoid unauthorized access. The class must be made final as it will disallow other classes from creating a mutable subclass of your immutable class. In other words, if you want to ensure that the behavior of your class should not be changed by subclasses, then make your class a final class.